Oh, hey guys! You have found the 100th episode of the Boston Chris podcast. And I, your host, Boston Chris, thanks you implicitly for checking out episode 100 today with a rising superstar, Jessee Lee. I personally think Jessee Lee is going to be a household name in the music business sooner rather than later, and I think you should jump on the Jessee Lee train as quick as you can. This young lady has it, I promise. Before we get into who Jessee Lee is and the awesome interview we had with her today, I want you guys to hit the like button wherever you're watching. Of course, if you want to see more in-depth, candid interviews with your favorite people in all walks of entertainment, you can hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're watching or listening. And I want you guys to comment down below your favorite part of this episode. But without further ado, let's talk a little bit about Jessee Lee, and then we'll get into it with her. Jessee Lee is a Nashville recording artist and nationally touring Texas songwriter, known for her sharp pen, soulful voice, and genre-blending sound. At 27 years old, she performs over 160 shows a year, both solo and with her five-piece band, bringing a bold mix of vintage country soul to stages all across the country. Her style draws from classic country, southern rock, soul, and a touch of pop, wrapped in timeless storytelling and delivered with a distinct sense of style and sincerity. Jessee has shared the stage with artists like Pure Prairie League, Darryl Worley, Radney Foster, William Beckman, and Kix Brooks, and has performed at iconic venues including Green Hall, Luckenbach Dance Hall, John T. Floor's Country Store, and AT&T Stadium. Her festival appearances span from the Key West Songwriter Festival to Montana's Forever West Fest, earning her a reputation for both powerful performances and meaningful connections with her audiences. With over 300 original songs to her name, Jessee's writing explores themes of love, family, self-discovery, and the quiet complexities of everyday life. Her voice is equal parts velvet and grit, her guitar work distinctively rhythmic, and her lyrics often walk the line between heartache and humor. The daughter of Grammy-nominated songwriter David Lee, Jessee grew up immersed in the Nashville songwriting scene. Her father taught her the craft of storytelling and finding her sound from a young age, laying the foundation for the emotionally resonant, lyrically rich music she creates today. In addition to her solo career, Jessee has been a dedicated part of Operation Song since 2022, writing with veterans battling PTSD and addiction at Warriors Heart Rehab. These sessions have deepened her commitment to the healing power of songwriting and expanded her work beyond the stage. Jessee's upcoming project, Wickedest Witch of West Texas, is slated for release in 2025. This new collection highlights her dynamic range and signature lyrical charm, blending southern rock, soul, country, pop, and her deep storytelling roots into a bold, authentic sound. Inspired by her time on the road and the haunting beauty of the Texas landscape, the album reflects both grit and glamour. The first single, Heartless, is scheduled to be released in August of 2025. Guys, we chat with Jessee about all of this and much, much more right now. Let's get into it.
It's time to chat. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. It's time to chat. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. Until we all lose connection.
Hey everybody, this is Brandon Ryder, and you're tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.
Guys, it's episode 100 of the Boston Chris podcast, and we have a huge treat for y'all today. Jessee Lee is my guest today, and I'm here to tell y'all, I'm making the prediction, Jessee Lee is going to absolutely be a rising superstar. She's going to be a superstar where literally awards and everything's going to happen for you. I want you to know that because I love you, I love your music, I love your writing, And I just think you're gonna blow up. And
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm so happy to be on your show today, and
well, I
just
appreciate
thank
you.
you for talking to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad it worked out, and you are gonna. We have a couple of songs from her YouTube that we're gonna share today as well. Man, I love the first one so much. It's called "She Can't Have You," and I was playing this for my wife last night, and she said, "Oh my gosh, that song! Every girl has that part of their life from that song. Like every girl can relate to that song, right?"
Yeah, where it's like the crazy ex that can't leave your new man alone.
Right, yeah. So, like, I was listening to that, and she was naming, like, friends of hers. Like, I have to show this to her and to her, and I was like,
I
so,
love that.
yeah, tell
Well,
us
it
how the song came to
started.
be, yeah.
Yeah, it started because I had this guy that he was coming out to all my shows, and at first it was like, oh, okay, maybe he's just kind of an odd guy. And he kind of thought he was like a ninja, and this isn't even a joke. He started coming out to all my shows, and then it became this thing where he kind of was creeping me out because no matter where it was, he was there at the show. It could be hours away, and I was like, there's a difference between like a super
Yep.
fan and
And a
somebody who
stalker.
you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, could this guy be a stalker? So, anyways, I was talking to my dad about it, who I wrote this "She Can't Have You" with, and we kind of started giggling trying to write this song because it started off, we were just talking, and my dad was playing guitar, and he started the first line of like, "I saw your crazy ex down at the grocery store" or something, and so we ended up writing this whole song, but it was based on a total different scenario, but with that stalker theme in mind.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I have that one actually coming out on my upcoming project.
Oh, man,
So
that's
I'm
exciting.
excited for everyone to hear it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, my wife is a huge fan of the Squirrel Nut Zippers. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but
I've heard of them, yes.
she got those kind of vibes from the song from that band. So she was
That's
like, "Oh man,
awesome.
Squirrel Nut Zippers, man, this is great." But yeah, let me show you the song, guys. It's called "She Can't Have You." It's Jessee Lee here on the Boston Chris podcast. Y'all check it out.
I saw your crazy ex down at the grocery store. You said when y'all broke up, she moved to Baltimore. She followed me through produce to the checkout line. And when I left, I saw her trailing right behind. Well, she ain't stable, she ain't sane. You left her, and I'm to blame. She's trying to make me understand. If she can't have you, no one can. I swear I saw her footprints in the flower bed, right outside the window where I laid my head. You laugh and say she's harmless, but really who can tell? We may ought to find an out-of-town motel. 'Cause she ain't stable, she ain't sane. You left her, and I'm to blame. She's trying to make me understand. If she can't have you, no one can. Oh my God, she dyed her hair to look like mine. I swear she's waiting for that certain place and time. She wants you back, and honestly, it's got me scared. Will it be poison or a steak knife when I'm least aware? 'Cause she ain't stable, she ain't sane. You left her, but I'm to blame. She's trying to make me understand, and she can't have you, but she can't have you. You're with me, and I'll jack up that bitch's teeth. So you best tell her who I am. I got a mean right hook and a frying pan, and I ain't stable, I'm insane. She's better with me off my train. So you best tell her so long, man, 'cause she can't have you, and no one can. Baby, no one can.
All right, so we are back. We're going to break the ice a little bit with Jessee before we get into the crazy, in-depth stuff. What are your favorite drinks right now? That's kind of my icebreaker question.
Ooh, my favorite drinks. I've been trying to get off of Diet Coke because that is like my fridge sig. Like I know that's probably gonna give me cancer, so
It
I'm
doesn't.
trying to get
It
off of.
won't, believe it or not. So I have a nutritionist, and I say this every time because I love the zero sugar wild cherry Pepsi.
Oh
And
yeah.
they say you would literally need to intake so much of those sugar alternatives that it would literally kill you before you could ever possibly get cancer from it.
Oh, well, that makes me feel so much
Yeah,
better.
and that's direct from a nutritionist. So obviously water
Yeah.
is better for you, but it is definitely better for like if you have diabetes or something like that. Like I'm pre-diabetic, so if I want caffeine, this is how I get it, and I don't have to deal with
Yes, yeah.
the sugar stuff.
I'm
Yeah.
constantly trying to watch my sugar too. I
Yeah.
have PCOS, and so
Okay.
I'm insulin resistant. So yeah, I do a lot of Diet Coke, but I'm a big HTO. I don't know
Yeah.
if everybody has those, but there's a coconut tea, and so I'm like a huge fan of the unsweet coconut tea.
Very
That's like
nice.
my
I'll have to check it out.
obsession.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, the wife has diabetes too, so like finding sugar-free stuff is really tough, and people buy it a lot. So like even if you find a store that carries it, they're usually out pretty quick.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
but yeah, I love the wild cherry stuff, and so I
Yeah, anything cheap.
always heard the same thing that like the sugar substitutes cause cancer and all of this, and so I had a nutritionist once and asked him directly, and he was like, yeah, I guess technically it is, but you would have to intake so much of it that like it's
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
I mean, it has to be better than all the sugar that, a Dr. Pepper has.
Right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. You would think so. Let's talk about you as a youngster growing up. Now, you are obviously at least a second generation musician. You're actually a fourth generation musician, but
yes.
your dad is a Hall of Famer, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But because you're growing up as the daughter of a songwriter, you grew up in the Nashville area, right?
I did. Yeah, I grew up in a town called Franklin,
Yep.
Tennessee until I was about 12, and then we moved out to a farm in College Grove, Tennessee. Um, and I grew up there during my childhood and through my high school years until my senior year of high school. We moved to Texas, which is where the rest of my family is from. But yeah, I grew up in Tennessee around all the music, around all the songwriters, and that was definitely most of my childhood memories.
And so, like, I mean, music is the family business, so to speak. So, like, how are you influenced by music as a youngster? Are you kind of, soaking that in from your dad? Are you getting outside influences as well?
Yeah, probably both. When I was 6 years old, I was six, and my dad bought me my first guitar. And so I started playing, little cover songs that I liked. And then around the age of 9, I had, been singing and playing guitar for a couple years. And I remember my dad told me that if I was going to sing and play music, that I needed to write my own stuff so I could find my own sound.
Mm-hmm.
So around the age of 9, I started writing my own songs. And then by the age of probably 12 or 13, I had joined a little rock band. And so
Wow.
I was the lead singer and was playing acoustic guitar in this little rock band with a bunch of like middle schoolers that I went to school with. And then we, did that through my high school years. And so, yeah, I think, my great grandfather, he was in a traveling band. My grandpa, he was in a band in the Navy, and he was one of the Navy musicians. And then when he got out of the Navy, he was living in Texas and playing in honky tonks, and got picked up by a booking agent and traveled all over, the South, playing music with his band. And then my dad took it to the next level, and he played in a country band up until he was about 25 in Texas.
Hmm.
And then at 25, that's when he decided to go to Nashville and try to, do the Nashville thing that nobody else in my family had ever done. And he said when he got there, he realized, how many amazing singers were in Nashville, and but he realized he could write a great song.
Yeah.
And great songs set everybody apart. I've always said, like, you look at Willie Nelson, and it's like he's not the best singer in the world, but his songs tell such a story, and he emotes so much
Hmm.
emotion. And so my dad kind of found his way through doing that. And so, yeah, I think just like growing up, it was almost like osmosis. It just kind of stepped into who I was as a young musician. And yeah, I think I always knew too that writing songs, was how you find your voice and who you are and what you want to say as an artist. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I found that at a pretty early age.
Well, you're obviously very lucky, to have found it so young. I can't imagine, performing in a band at 12 years old or 13 years old. Like, I can see being a musician, diddling on the guitar, maybe writing out some lyrics and some stuff like that, but like full on band, that's crazy. Let me ask you this: since it is kind of a fourth generation thing, you're growing up and music is the family business, so to speak. Is there any kind of rebellion from your part, like whether it be against music in general? I doubt that's there, but maybe it's more genre specific that you rebel against.
Yeah, probably all of it. When I was in high school, I remember I went through a phase where um when you grow up with like a music family, everything, especially with what my dad did, his whole life was music. His
Yeah.
whole life was having co-writes the next day, and oh my gosh, like, what am I going to write about, and what's a good hook. And it was constantly, which you have to do as a professional songwriter. But as a kid, I think it was like, can we do something else,
Yeah.
besides music? And which, my dad was great about, taking us to the lake and doing stuff on the weekends. But I just remember almost feeling like selfish, like music was a selfish world.
Hmm.
So from a young age, I found I love to help people. I love to try to, I like to leave people better than I found them if I can. And I've thought that maybe nursing would be a great career for me.
Hmm.
So getting out of high school, I actually wanted to go into the Navy and become a Navy corpsman. So I took the ASVAB coming out of high school. I went to college for 2 years. And during that time, I was planning on doing the whole 4 years of nursing school. But I actually started working for this insurance company, and I was working at all these hospitals. And I was actually working next to a morgue
Wow.
downstairs in the basement of a hospital. And I remember I started making these nurse friends, and I was asking them, like, do you feel like your job is, I mean, obviously you get to help people, but how hands on do you really get to be? And I started learning that so much of nursing, a lot of it's like paperwork and being on a computer, and I've never been very organized
Yeah.
or very good at the clock in kind of world. So after a couple years of my, I guess that was kind of my rebellion against music, was I was like, screw this, I'm going to do something totally different. Um, but then even so, when I was 20, I dropped out of college, and I remember I called my parents and I was like, I feel like I need to be doing music. All I'm doing in my free time is writing, and it's really all I want to be doing. And I was in tears about
Yeah.
it. And my dad was like, well, just move back home. You can get on your feet, move back home, and we'll start, making a plan. So when I started doing music on my own, um, I also didn't want to do country music. That was like a big thing, was I
Yeah.
was like, I grew up loving Amy Winehouse and Nora Jones and Corinne Bailey Rae and Ray Charles and all these different, more bluesy, jazzy genre of music.
Love that.
And yeah, and I feel like that was what was played at my house because we didn't listen to a lot of country. My
Hmm.
dad said it made him work when he would listen to country.
It's got
So
to be a strange place to be, right? Like just staying away from that just because it is work. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And so like yeah, I grew up like, dancing on my dad's feet to like Louis Armstrong and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I thought that I wanted to get more into that world of music, but I was living in Texas and, everybody says like jazz is great, but do you want to make money?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so
Hmm.
that was kind of where I got to is how can I blend, these two worlds because I love country music and, I love more like the 70s and 80s country. So yeah, I think definitely there was a little like rebellion and like also I wanted to not be necessarily in my dad's shadow. I thought if I did
Yes.
something,
Yeah.
different, then I could be my own person. And so, but that took me a couple years of playing live and realizing like most of Texas is like honky tonks and,
Hmm.
little dive bars. And it's like people, no matter how much pretty jazz you play, at some point, somebody's gonna be like, do you know any Merle Haggard?
Yep.
You
Hmm.
know?
Well, I mean, the beautiful thing is about Texas, especially now. I'm sure you know this, having played it so much now. I mean, Texas music has changed to the point where now jazz and country music doesn't really not work. I mean, it fits. Like everything fits here now, and that's kind of the awesome thing about how Texas is changing towards the music,
Yes.
right? Like you have these different gritty feels of other genres within your Texas country, and it's being more accepted now, and I love that for artists like you who are very genre fluid, right? And
Sure.
it's just, I mean, I love the vibes from song to song from you, and kind
Well,
of
thank you.
the background and hearing your influences. So, like the Amy Winehouse thing does not surprise me whatsoever because I hear it from you.
Absolutely.
So, how do you think? One thing I caught on from what you were talking about with your dad was more, or less about his art and more about the business, right? So, it was more the business of songwriting and the business of music that you were really not a fan of, it sounds like. But at the same time, I imagine learning that side of things from your dad has been absolutely, probably life changing for you now that you are a full artist, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, towards the end of my dad's career in Nashville, he had started lobbying in Washington, D.C. against Spotify
Hmm.
because of how Spotify started paying the artists. It's like we make 0.0001 penny per stream. And yeah, streaming has really affected the songwriting world. And so I think there was a bit of frustration that I even felt coming from him and his friends who had been doing it for so many years when, you could make a really good living just being a songwriter and getting cuts and getting hits, or even just like an album filler song, you could still make money off of that.
Hmm.
And so I learned definitely from a young age and then into getting into music myself that most contracts are going to screw you
Hmm.
unless you come in, having your own fan base and having something that you're coming with. Um, yeah, I definitely learned, it's like, for instance, I had American Idol reach out to me in 2020 whenever COVID was going on, and they said, "Hey, we want you to be on the show. We think that you could be a top 10 artist on here, blah blah blah." And so they waved me through the audition process and gave me like the golden ticket
Yeah.
to LA and all that stuff. And I told them though, I said, "Well, before I do anything, I've got to see the contract. I'm
Hmm.
not going into this blindly." So they sent me the contract and I gave it to my dad's lawyer up in Nashville, and I went in and had a meeting with him, and as soon as I sat down, he was like, he took the piece of paper and was like, "You're insane if you sign this." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, I thought it would be great exposure and all this. And he was like, "They're going to own you for 5
Yep.
albums.
Yep.
You never know how long that could take."
Hmm.
So I learned, to really, you have to watch your own back, when it comes to all of that. And I think if I wouldn't have had, the background of what my dad did, and having somebody that had advocated for himself. He'd also been screwed. Like, he wrote a song called "Roll with It" for Easton Corbin, and he wrote it like years before it was ever cut, and that was in his Schedule A. Whenever he moved to Nashville and got his first publishing deal, they told him, pick 25 songs for your Schedule A and we'll pay you $300 per song. So my dad was like, awesome. So he had written "Roll with It," and he was 27 years old at the time, and um, gave them that song for $300.
$300, yeah.
And then, years later, Easton Corbin records it. It becomes a number one, and he had given that song away for $300.
Yep.
So it's like, I think that's probably been the best thing about, having somebody that already went through all of it that can share it with me. I've been very blessed to have that.
As
for
a
sure.
young songwriter, he was probably thinking, hell, man, that's $7,500. I could pay a lot of bills with that. It's kind of like
Absolutely.
the advance thing that they'll do, right? That publishers will do. They'll give you an advance, and then you have to essentially give away your songs until that advance is paid off. And man, they try to take advantage of you every which way they can. And I'm glad you didn't.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you didn't sign that contract with American Idol. First of all, like thank goodness, because I can't imagine the music that's going to come from you now.
Thanks.
Haven't heard the first EP. That is just ridiculous. But I haven't mentioned his name yet. If you haven't caught on yet, this is the daughter of Hall of Fame songwriter David Lee, who was just recently inducted into the Texas Heritage Songwriters Hall of Fame, which to me as a Texas music fan is the songwriting Hall of Fame in Texas.
Yes.
It is the place. Like, go look at their inductees, you'll know what I'm talking about. My friend Leslie Satcher, I think, was one of his co-inductees, and yeah,
I love her.
I love Leslie to death. She's so sweet.
Precious human.
I have a record over here, numbered to 100, that she signed to me. There's only 100 of them made, so it was one of my prized possessions. One of the let's talk about this with your dad. I'm sure he mentored your songwriting, but what are some things that you do differently as a writer than him that kind of makes you stand on your own feet?
Good question.
Thank you.
I would say definitely he, with him being like writing for country radio, he definitely has more of like the commercial, um, you know, okay, I guess as a staff songwriter, you're not really telling your own stories.
Yep.
You're, telling a story that anybody can relate to. And I think that is super important as a songwriter, but I think with me being an artist slash songwriter, sometimes my songs have a little more of a personal touch on them than I think that his probably do, since he was, writing for the masses. And also, since I haven't really ever been writing for radio, I have kind of that, like, some of those jazz soul progressions in some of my music, or maybe I'm not as worried about how many chords are in a song.
Less structure, right?
Yeah, less structure. But he definitely taught me, I guess, the art of like a hook, and of like a turn of phrase, and how to paint pictures. His biggest thing when I was growing up was like, don't say it, show it.
Yeah, descriptive
Yeah.
language, yeah.
Absolutely. And so I've kind of found that, when I write with people, that's one of the biggest things that I'm constantly trying to do, is like, okay, instead of saying like we walked, to the lake, how can we show a picture of that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there's definitely a blend of, doing my own thing as an artist, but then also taking the pieces that resonated with me,
Yeah.
that he taught me from a young age.
I love
yeah.
that. So my next two notes, you just touched on both of them. So this is perfect. So I was going to talk about the marketability versus relevance in songwriting, and resonance and things like that. But you brought up the descriptive language in your songwriting, and I really wanted to touch on that. My note here is the ability to bring scenes to life in music. That's the note I wrote for this segment. So talk a little bit more in depth about that as a songwriter and as, let's be honest, a young songwriter, being able to
Yeah,
be picturesque in less than 3 minutes, but still bring a plot and a beginning and an end to a story. Like, that's really difficult for
sure.
3 minutes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I when I listen, there's certain music that I listen to that it's more about the beat or about the melody,
Absolutely.
and I think that there's a time and place for that for sure because when you're out on the lake with your friends or you're at a party or something, nobody's like sitting around listening to every
That's
line,
right.
and if it's this poetic thing, so there's that. But then there's also, I don't know. I think that for me, as a lover of words, I love poetry, I love reading. I'm actually in the middle of trying to write my own book. Um, there's a piece of that that is, it's a piece of art, and whenever you put your music out there, and I think I just want everything to have my stamp on it. And so I think for me, like, rather than just saying it, I want to be able to show it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that maybe it's just something that's like learned through song after song because I'm sure my first songs didn't paint any kind of picture.
Do you think
Um,
nowadays, I mean, it's been kind of this way for the last 30 years or so, but I feel like the music video is so important in selling a song nowadays, especially kind of in the DIY markets. And, everybody can make their own videos, they can make their own songs with bathroom studios and just an iPhone with a video. Um, how do you think the role of the music video plays in having that descriptive language in your songs? Because obviously, being able to film a video and show, now you get to show that in video form, but it's already there in audio form. It makes things kind of easier, doesn't it?
I agree 100%. Yeah, I think yeah, like whenever we did the Dive Bar Superstar
Yes.
music video, that was super cool because, we were able to like I was well, so I had this amazing director and film artist who was from Paris, France. And that was kind of his whole thing was he was like, how can we turn these lyrics into something that people can see, but also make it a little bit maybe different? Because that's kind of the cool thing too to me about music videos is like, as a writer, I see it in my brain the way that I see it, but
Right.
it's cool to see somebody else take it and turn it into something that they see too. So when we did that music video, I thought it was just going to be like, oh, we're going to be at a dive bar and it's me people cheersing and whatever.
Hmm.
And he was like, I see you in this like mansion in this like beautiful bathtub with candles, and then like and then the next scene you're walking out of this like trailer, because that's the reality of
Yeah.
being like a dive bar
Yep.
superstar is like in your brain you're this big thing, but really you're like living more like a dive bar superstar.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think the music videos are super fun. I have a new project coming out this winter, and I'm hoping to do a couple more music videos because that was
Cool.
like a whole new piece of art that
Yeah.
I had never really got to experience.
Yeah.
So that was super cool to see how someone else can see your vision and turn it into theirs.
Yeah, and that's how lyrics are anyway, right? Like you can write it with one meaning, and then somebody could get something completely different out of it. Man, I love you're talking about wordplay and alliterativeness and the poetry of song. Dive Bar Superstar is very alliterative. It rolls off the tongue. The song title to it. What I love about the song is I feel like an artist is always trying to find that blend between marketability and also the integrity of their freedom with their art. I feel like you have found both with this song. So I'm trying to
Thank
figure
you.
out how you did that, right? So obviously the song is very, very, it's going to work at a club. It's going to work, out there at the lake, like you were saying earlier. But I feel like it probably also fills your soul creatively, doesn't it, as a songwriter? So how do you reach that
Yeah.
balance?
I don't know. I think, sometimes you just get lucky, and
Yeah.
I think like for that song, I had been playing I used to play at this biker bar every Thursday when I was first getting started. I was like 19, 20, 21 playing out there. And it was a real smoky bar there. You could still smoke cigarettes inside. It was only a beer bar, so it brought a whole lot of bikers and kind of this different clientele that ended up being some of the most supportive people of my entire career so far. And anyways, but I was playing there one night, and this lady came up to me after the show, and she was kind of disgusted that I was playing at this place. Like, she was like, "Why are you playing here? It's so smoky, and
Hmm.
like, you should be playing a better place," and blah blah blah. Um and I remember I was almost kind of offended because I'd been playing there for a couple years, and those people had become my friends, and they
Family,
were
yeah.
very supportive, um and so I was kind of laughing, in my brain. I was kind of like, okay, like, you can be judgy, but these people are paying me to play. And like, yeah, if I could be on the Grand Ole Opry every night, I would,
Yep.
but this is where I'm at in my life. And it can be almost offensive, I feel like, whenever you come up to an artist and kind of like, you know, you're like, why aren't you doing better?
Hmm.
Why aren't you? And it's like, girl, I'm trying, and
Right.
so at that time of my life, I was probably a lot more sensitive to that than I am now. But so I remember talking about that, and that's kind of how we ended up with that song. Is like, I pull up in my beat up wagon, sometimes with the tailpipe dragging, with my funny smelling friends, because it was the truth of, where I was at during that time of my life. So sometimes I think for me, if something is really real, and I've seen the pictures because it's real life
Hmm.
happening, then it's a lot easier to write things with those pictures and make it really set the scene in your song, in your verses. And I've heard forever, like, your verses belong to you and the choruses belong to the people. So I've been trying to
I
be
love that.
better.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been trying to be better about making the choruses something that people can sing along to, and that maybe are more relatable, and then your verses are kind of for you.
So do you feel like, man, that's a brilliant way of putting it, man. That gives me a question though. Like, if the choruses are for the people, the verses are for you. There has to be a meeting point, right? So,
Right.
I mean, you can't just throw a chorus together that works for the people, and then the verses don't make any sense with the chorus. So, like,
Sure.
there has to be that entwinement, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
And
love that.
I think there's a little bit of
It's almost like a
it's like,
compromise, right?
yeah, absolutely. And it's like, we're all really, at the end of the day, we're all so the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our world has made us feel like, if you're country, you're so different than somebody who grew up in LA or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think so many of us are the same, and we all have a lot of similar ways of seeing the world, or things we've all been through. Nobody's ever been through something that somebody else hasn't been through.
Yep.
So it's like, if you can write something that maybe isn't, my boyfriend Joe, and it's more of like, my piece of crap boyfriend, somebody else
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
relate to
I
that. So
love that.
I think trying to find that is the constant search as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
songwriter.
And you mentioned it earlier, saying something different, saying the same thing differently, right? Let's talk a little more in depth about your songwriting process. I know it's different for everybody, and it can be different for one artist, even. Like, is it more lyrical for you? Is it start with the melodies? Are you hearing hooks? Are you going through life just like experiencing, scenes in front of you, making stories up about people and things that are happening around you? Like, how's it work?
Man, it's kind
All
of,
of the
I mean,
above, maybe.
it's kind of all of it. I'll say, for me personally, when I write a song, um, I learned, and I learned this just from my dad being my teacher. Um, it's very hard to write a song that, if you don't start with a hook, and or just know what your title is going to be. Because I write with people often who they're like, I've got this awesome melody, and they just kind of go straight into the first verse, and
Hmm.
I really struggle doing that. Because to me, it's like, we can write all this stuff, but what are we saying? And how are you? To me, like, you write to the hook. And so, if um like, for instance, when I have a song on my last album called Crazy House, And when I wrote that song, originally I was thinking of like a mental institution, and I wanted it to be called Crazy House, and I wrote that with my dad, and he was like, okay, well, if your title's Crazy House, what is another way that we can turn that phrase? And so it ended up being like this girl, is in this mental institution, but her husband or boyfriend or whatever put her in there. So like they're letting her
Yeah.
go, but she doesn't want to go back home because she wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. So she's like, I'm going to burn this guy's house down if I go back. I'm not cut out to go back to that crazy house. And so it's like, but if we wouldn't have started with the hook, we wouldn't have been able to write to that hook. So for me personally, um, I've found that that's how I like to write. I don't always start, with a melody. Um, Oftentimes I think that the what you're gonna say will kind of tell you what the melody should be. Or I mean, I guess that's not always true. Sometimes, if you're playing guitar and or piano or whatever and you get a cool melody, then you can maybe ask yourself like, what is this melody wanting to say?
Right.
Um, but yeah, I have a hard time just going straight into lyrics if I don't have it pre-planned. Almost like if you're writing an essay or something, it's like you start with all your different points you're gonna have. So I do the same thing with a song, I think. And yeah, I've just found for me that's the easiest way to make a cohesive song and be able to maybe have a turn of phrase at some point in the song.
So are you sponging through life in that way? Because like if it's hook or title based for you, and that it's that way for a lot of songwriters I've found. Does that mean like you're walking through Walmart, you hear conversation, or you hear somebody say something that maybe strikes a chord with you, and you write that down? Maybe that ends up being your hook. Because I know that happens a lot for songwriters. Like they'll be in the room and they're supposed to be writing a song and nothing is happening, and then they'll go to lunch and somebody will just say something off the cuff, and that's the song. There it is. There's the off the cuff remark that turns into a song later.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that's what I love about Sundays by Craig Morgan, written by Mark Narmore.
Yes.
Came from one of those conversations. Is it like that for you? Like you're sponging through life, not
Oh
necessarily
yeah.
searching, but you are bringing in turns of phrase and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oftentimes, yeah, in a conversation with somebody, I'm real big on not being on my phone when people are talking. I really try my best to be very present when I'm with people. And but that's the I always tell people, if you see me pick up my phone while we're talking, it's because you said
Yeah, you
something
said
that,
something cool. Yep.
yeah, or even, like going to the library and looking at book titles and being like, oh, that might be kind of cool. Or when I'm listening or when I'm watching movies, I'm constantly listening for something that maybe people say. But yeah, I always say, like, I feel like I'm always working. Even when I'm out with my
Yep.
friends, like my brain is never really totally disconnected from being a writer or music. Yeah, I think definitely like my notes app on my phone
I
is
can't
just
imagine. Yeah, I
full.
can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't know what it means, but I know it sounds cool and maybe one day it'll make sense what
Yeah.
that's supposed to mean.
Well, it's like just buying new tools and putting them in the toolbox. Maybe you don't know what they're for and you don't know what you're supposed to do with that tool yet. But then something comes along where you're like, man, that tool will work really good right here, right? And so then you can just
Absolutely.
pull it from your toolbox. Man, I love that. And it's scary being around songwriters. I feel when especially sponging songwriters. I wanted to talk about vocal ability too before we get too far into this, because I'm a big fan of vocals as an instrument, and a lot of people don't really give a lot of credit to a vocalist as they would a lead guitarist or a drummer, somebody who's really good at those instruments. How much work do you put into your vocals? Because I know from listening to your music, your vocals are very streamlined, but at the same time, they're edgy, they're raw at times. It's like you always know what to do in a certain lyric or a certain situation within your music. Is this a strategy of yours? Is this something you have learned over time with your vocals?
Maybe both. Maybe so I definitely feel like I've learned, even the older I get, the more I'm better about this. But trying to evoke whatever that emotion is of that line. So if it's angry, having, maybe a little more like rasp or you know,
Yeah.
loudness and
Well,
your
like the
voice at
song we
that.
have coming up later in the episode, "Good Song Out of You," it's very flowery vocally. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
so needed for that song and the message in that song. But like when I first
Yeah.
heard you do that song, I was like, "Wow, this is a different side of your vocals." That's yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, so my first project that I recorded, that my Dive Bar Superstar project, I think I was 22 when I recorded it. And then I started releasing it, I think around like 23 and then 24. And so that time of my life, I was still kind of figuring out what was in my vocal toolbox. And,
Mm-hmm.
I was fighting that thing of being like, I want to be Amy Winehouse so
Yeah.
bad, but I'm country. So I think over time I've learned different songs require different pieces of your voice. And so yeah, if I'm writing something that's like softer, then I think more of my like country kind of Dolly Parton side of my voice
Yeah.
comes out. And then if it's, something more gritty, then, there's another more of like the rock and roll kind of thing. And so I think it's a constant evolving thing
Yes.
that happens, because but I'm a big fan of not perfectionism, but storytelling through your voice. And
Yeah.
I mentioned Willie Nelson earlier. He's one of my favorites, even vocally, because he's not the greatest singer, but when he sings, I feel something. And I've for a long time, when people ask me who my favorite artists are, they're oftentimes not the best singers in the world, because but I feel something. There's soul
Yeah.
from their
Yeah.
voice.
It's
And
about the feel, and it
um
should be about the feel. Yeah.
yeah, and if people are so pitch perfect that they never hit any kind of note that's wrong. And I think that's amazing, like amazing technique. But at the same time, if I don't feel anything and I don't really believe that that artist feels that, then I have a
Yes.
hard time connecting.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
man. You're saying it all. Man, there it is right there, y'all. The believability is the most important thing in connecting with an audience. And if you
Yes.
don't connect with your audience as an artist, you are lost. You will never
Right.
get anywhere. Man, I love that. Believability, that's it in a nutshell. And
It
I
is.
love that you know this, man. It's so awesome.
Well, thank
Man,
you.
that's exciting. Yeah, it's all about making people believe what you have written, and it's so important to deliver it in a way that they can resonate with it. It's
Yeah, well, it's
and
like
it
you think
comes
about
down
like,
to feel. You're right. It comes down to feel.
yeah, and like actors, it's like you watch an actor who they might be doing all the parts perfect, but if if somebody is like really connected to that role,
Hmm.
or if they're just doing it for the
Just
money,
mailing it in. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Man, you
I
can,
think it's
and
the
that's the
same with
thing,
voice.
man. Artists always, oh, I should say, um, music fans are very good at figuring out when somebody is not passionate about what they're doing. They're just going through the motions. You can feel it,
Yes.
or if they're strung out, or if they're drunk, or if they're just if the artist is not connecting with their music, then
Oh yeah.
how do you expect the audience to? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't believe what you're saying, then what are you doing?
Man, good stuff, man. That's a great segment right there. I'm glad we talked about that because, man, I like I said, I feel like vocalists do not get enough credit in what they do with their vocals to deliver a message. I'll give you a good example. A pop artist, Billie Eilish, right? She is so
Yeah.
incredible with her vocals in just making little things and little sounds and little
She is.
she's just so good at that, and at the end of the day, it just makes you feel more. It gets you more connected with what she's doing with her art, and it comes down to believability, 100%. I love it.
Absolutely.
You talked about finding things or titles and things from books and movies, and I kind of snickered internally there because I know that your new record, the debut full album, is called Wickedest Witch of the West.
Yeah, Wickedest Witch of West Texas. I might have it wrong on something, but
You
yeah,
might,
Wickedest
yeah.
Witch of
Okay.
West Texas.
I might have
Yeah,
I might have
it's
wrote it down wrong. Who knows? But yeah.
no, you're fine. I've been saying Wickedest Witch of the West, and every time I do it, I'm like, West Texas. But yeah, that was one of those things where, like, the Wicked had come out, and it was like the rave of everything, and um, I was thinking like I love Jim Croce. I'm a huge Jim Croce fan, and I love his kind of wild storytelling and the weird pictures, like that he puts in his music, um, and so I was thinking about trying to write something in that vein that was kind of wacky storytelling, and so I came up with this kind of like almost a video in my brain of like this chick from West Texas that, is kind of like the Bad Leroy Brown, but female version. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so this song, and I don't know if I don't know if I have any, I might have one video out on the internet of it somewhere, but I haven't really promoted it a whole lot yet.
Well, this is the new
Um,
record that's coming out, right? The album.
yeah, that's the title track to it.
Okay. So on your
And
website, it is Wickedest Witch of the West.
dang it, thank you. I need to
Yep.
change that.
So I got your back.
Thank you.
Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, I love that like kind of crazy storytelling, and but yeah, that was one of those like titles where I was like, man, that hasn't been a song, but how can I do it where it's not so, like,
Yeah.
Wickedest Witch of the West, the little witch on a broom, so it's more of like she's just this like crazy chick from Sterling City, Texas, who kind of like, you know it's a fun story. I'm
Yeah.
excited for everybody to be able to hear it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm stoked about a full record from you. Is this going to be kind of I don't want to say a concept record, but do the songs connect to each other in some way as well?
Yeah, for sure. This one has a little more grittiness to it. Definitely more of the vibe of, I've been playing in Texas for the last several years, and been in all the honky tonks and seen the bar fights and
Mm-hmm.
and all that kind of stuff. And so along my period of writing these songs, I always tell people I'm a recovering people pleaser, and
I
so
saw that.
I
Yeah.
yeah. So these songs kind of have more of that, like, trying to find kind of more of my backbone, I guess, as a woman and as just a person, is like, and so there's like more of kind of the fun side, the like there's some drinking songs, there's some um kind of more Western, West Texas kind of sounding stuff. Um, and yeah, there's a couple like story songs that are just kind of your Guy Clark, Towns Van Zandt style of making up a story
Yeah.
and telling a story, and so I'm really excited for it to come out because yeah, Dive Bar Superstar is my only project that I have released, but like I said, I was 21,
Mm-hmm.
22 when I was writing that and recording it, and I feel like I've changed a lot as an artist, and I haven't really been able to show people that unless they come to my live shows. So
Right.
I'm really excited to have that new music to be able to put out to show people what I've been doing.
And when can we expect it to be out? Do you have an ETA yet?
Yeah, so my first single from it is called Heartless, and it's being released on August 29th.
Wow.
And then, yeah, so that's going to be the first single off the project. And then um, I have, I'm probably going to drop two more singles off of it before I release the full project. So I'm thinking it'll probably be like November 2025 is when I'll have the full project out. But yeah, there will be about three singles up until then
Well, that's
that are
really
coming out.
exciting. I can't say enough how much I think you're gonna explode. Honestly, I really do.
Thank
I'm
you.
a fan of music. I love storytellers. I love good writers. And man, the first time I heard Dive Bar Superstar, I was like, "Holy crap! This girl has it!" Like, big time.
Thank
So
you. I
stoked.
appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. Just last thing before we get into some fun segments, I want to talk about kind of the road warrior in you, and that's 160 plus shows a year.
Yeah.
Like the balance of everything has to be tough for you, right? You're on the road, you're writing, you got home life, family life, friends, all of that stuff. How are you balancing all of this? and finding
Very
time for
poorly.
you as well. Very poorly, yeah, I imagine, right? Do you find time for yourself as well? Is there Jesse time?
Yeah, in the last year, I have learned more about balance. Before that, though, it was just like if I had a day off, I felt like I was failing. I'm
Yes.
like I feel like a loser. I'm, playing like I would go through these things in my brain of like, you have to outwork everybody because I've heard forever like it doesn't matter how much talent you have, it's how hard can you work? Can you outwork the other people? Not that it's, a competition, but in the grand scheme of the business part, it's like
Kind
there's
of
always
is.
somebody
Yeah.
who's outworking you, you
Yep.
know? So yeah, for a long time, I was playing about 100, between 140 and 160 shows a year.
Jeez.
And yeah, I have a band, and we were playing between, all over Texas, from Houston to Dallas to San Angelo to wherever. And then we've been playing, we played Mississippi, Nashville, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana,
Yeah.
all over the place. And yeah, I think over the last year I had to find a balance because it was wearing me out.
Yeah,
I was like,
it'll tear your ass up for sure. Yeah.
it does. And I've been totally independent. I'm my own booking agent, I'm my own manager,
Yeah.
um I've had a couple different I'm really weird about I think letting I don't want the wrong people to be in my um music business life because it can I've seen how signing with the wrong people or getting the wrong booking agent or whatever, it can just really
Yeah.
destroy the
Suck the
momentum of
life
what
out
you're
of you.
doing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and so I think I for a long time was like, okay, I can do all of this myself. I don't need any help. And I kind of had this
Yeah.
little chip on my shoulder almost of like I want to do this independently. Um and then yeah, it really started to wear on me between I had so my band, they went full time with me a couple years ago, and so I was their full-time job. And I had four people that were counting on me
Mm-hmm.
to pay their bills every month. My drummer, he's got a wife and a daughter, and I was feeling like I want to give them enough opportunity to make enough money to want to stick with me too,
Yeah.
because it's hard to find a band that is great but is also 100% available whenever you need them,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're paying well and being busy enough. So I definitely feel like I was kind of working myself into this hole of being like, I don't even want to play. I don't want to look at a guitar. I wasn't done, but I
Mm-hmm.
was feeling really burnout and like I needed a break. So in October of 2024, this past year, um, I decided I am done with all the bills that I have and trying to live this crazy, life. So I moved from a 4-bedroom house to a 40-foot motorhome and kind of just simplified my life and started kind of, like you said, trying to figure out who I am without music and like who is just Jesse the person. And started getting into yoga and kayaking and like kind of tried to find a piece of life outside of music because since I was 19 years old, just about, I've been doing nothing
Yep.
but playing and writing every day,
Man,
and
I'm
I'm
really happy
27.
that you found that, right. Like before
Thank you.
before it got irreversibly changed for you, because it can happen for folks. I mean, hell, we talked about Amy Winehouse, right? Unfortunately, she is definitely one of those that went the wrong way. I'm glad you were able to kind of reset and refresh, and you knew that that's what needed to happen. Because
For
yeah, man,
sure.
that number one, that imposter syndrome is a bitch. First of all, but like also having people depend on you while you're also beating yourself up. That's a rotten feeling, and
Yeah, for sure. And taking gigs that might not be necessarily soul fulfilling, but they give you money in your pocket.
right,
And so it's like, oh, well, I'll take it. I have a Thursday off. But I started learning that it's less about the quantity and more about the quality,
awesome. Love to hear it. Yeah, and the yoga, the kayaking, getting one with nature, all of those things are going to be good for your center. And
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to, and it's like you can't pour from an empty cup.
No.
And I think I started realizing that even with my writing, I felt like my writing had slowed down and I was like beating my head against a wall, like I have to write something. And
Yeah.
then I kind of started being like, I think everything in life is seasons. And, I think especially as a creative, it's like you can't be, quote unquote brilliant 24/7. Like
Nope.
that's impossible. And so I definitely have found more balance within the last year, and I feel a lot happier doing it, and it makes me excited to be on the road when
Yeah.
I am on the road.
Good stuff. It's not even about being brilliant 24/7. Like, you'll convince yourself you're just supposed to be productive 24/7. Right?
Yes, that's probably a better word for it.
Like
Yes.
both of those is true though, right? And you're gonna build, especially if you know you can be productive, or you
Yes.
can be brilliant. You've shown signs of that. You're just gonna tell yourself that's an all the time thing now. You need to make sure that happens all the time now. Like, we are our biggest enemy all the time. Glad to have Jessee Lee here on the show. We're going to talk about the second song that we chatted a little bit about earlier, called Good Song Out of You. This does have those Dolly Parton vibes. Tell us about the song.
Yeah, so I had dated this guy for about 4 years, and when we broke up, I felt like I had just wasted, these 4 years, and I was like, oh my gosh, like nothing good has come out of this. But I think in the grand scheme of things, as a creative, it's like, when really bad stuff happens in our life, it's almost like fuel to the
Yep.
creative fire. So yeah, I ended up writing this song, Good Song Out of You, and it's literally about the act of, feeling like I might not get anything out of this, but I'm sure gonna get a good song out of
Yep,
this.
I love it, man. It's such a good song, and I thank you for letting us include songs today again.
Of course.
But guys, y'all check this out. It's Jessee Lee live. Good Song Out of You. Completely acoustic, too, by the way, which is our vibe here on the show. So y'all check it out.
We've been going round and round. We've been trying to talk it out. But I guess even good things have an end. We've had some days ago, but it's been a while, and I can feel the cold creeping in. Guess what we had is gone, and I'll be moving on. I might lose a little sleep, might burn the midnight oil, may spread some paper on the floor, put hot tea on the boil, sit down and make some sense of this is all I know to do. But saying nothing came from us ain't true, 'cause I'm gonna get a good song out of you. You can't rap what you ain't lived, and when a heart breaks like this, the only thing to do is jot it down. Yeah, I'll give 'em all the skinny, yeah, I'll dress it up real pretty, make something they can laugh or cry about. One more love done wrong means one new breakup song. I might lose a little sleep, might burn the midnight oil, may spread some paper on the floor, put hot tea on the boil, sit down and make some sense of this is all I know to do. But saying nothing came from us ain't true, 'cause I'm gonna get a good song out of you. Yes, I will. Hey, you never know. You may make the radio, and I might lose a little sleep, might burn the midnight oil, saying nothing came from us ain't true. And it may beat this old heart black and blue, but I'm gonna get a good song out of you. Yes, I will. Well, I'm gonna get a good song out of you.
All right, so we are back with Jessee Lee for the first time on the show. Guys, episode 100. Can you believe it already? So I did a lot of stuff back in the day. We did like 320 episodes back before 2019. And then I took a lot of time off, and this is my new project that I started in 24. So 5-year hiatus, but to have 100 out again is super satisfying and just awesome stuff. But anyway, we're going to do our having fun segments with Jessee Lee. I know a lot of y'all are probably looking forward to that. I get so many messages about these segments. They love this stuff. So first one is called Did You Know? She has no idea what's about to happen. All right, so
No idea.
So this one's called Did You Know? Can you tell us something your fans may not know about you?
It's hard to tell on pictures or online or whatever, but when you meet me in person, I have one eye that's half green and brown, and then one that's brown. So I probably would have been burned in the Salem witch trials back in the day.
That's awesome. Oh, man. Man, I've been to Salem. It's fun up there. All right, next one's called Mount Rushmore. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of favorite artists? Your four favorite artists.
That's a good one. Okay, I would say Amy Winehouse. I love her. Merle Haggard. Ray Charles and Leon Redbone.
Wow. What a foursome. I love that. All right, next one's called What the Heck? So this is rapid fire, 5 questions, and you're not allowed to change your answer. So whatever comes into your brain is what has to come out your mouth, okay?
Oh gosh, that's scary. Okay.
All right, so rapid fire, What the Heck with Jessee Lee. Number 1, if a cow laughs too hard, does milk come out of their nose?
Yes.
All right, number 2, if your pet could talk, what would it say about you?
You should cook more at home.
Cook more at home. She's getting her advice from her pet. All right. Number 3, what is your weirdest talent?
I can play the mouth trumpet.
What is the mouth trumpet?
Like,
All right. Number 4, I love this show, man. Oh, dude, we had Taylor Honeycutt here a few weeks ago. And
oh, I love her.
I asked her what her weirdest talent was, and her answer, and I shit you not, was I can do this thing with my head. And I was like, you have to do it now, right?
Like, what is it?
Then after she does it, like she's moving her scalp, right? And like all you see is her hair moving back and forth. After she finishes doing that, she says, "Oh, I also went to culinary school." And I was like, Taylor, you should have led with that.
She had to do a reenactment.
That was great. All right, number 4. Let me see here. If you heard God sneeze, what would you say to him?
We bless you.
We bless you. I would probably say bless yourself. I don't know.
Bless yourself.
All right, last one, number 5. Have you ever used your phone's flashlight to try to find the phone that you lost?
Oh, I'm sure. I lose my phone all the time when it's in my hands.
Yeah,
so I'm sure
same.
I've done that.
So I have done that in the past. I thought I dropped my phone under the bed. Like I heard something fall, right? I heard something fall from my desk, right? It was actually my mouse that fell, by the way. But I thought it was my phone that fell, and it was dark, and it was actually the mouse. So I picked up my phone, which I thought fell on the floor, and I turned the damn flashlight on. I'm looking for my phone.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's it's like sunglasses, and you're
Yeah.
looking for them, and they're
And
on
they're
your
right
head.
on your head. That's right. So that's why I added that question. Most of these questions
I
I've
love
had
that.
it. They've happened to me. So, oh my god. Yeah, my wife said, "What are you looking for?" I was like, "I can't find my phone." She's like, "Isn't that it in your hand?" Golly,
It's
yeah,
hard out here.
yeah, it's tough. All right, next segment is called One Artist. Who is one artist you wish the whole world knew about, other than yourself?
Sierra Farrell.
Oh man, okay. I think it's getting there. I think it's getting there.
Yes,
She is.
I love her.
Oh my gosh, man. Google's getting tired of me saying her name. I can promise you that. Every day in the car, I'll get mad at a song, right? Like I'll hear a song and I'll be like, "Man, this is not a good song," and I'll immediately go, "Google, play Sierra Farrell. Make me feel
Yeah,
better."
she's amazing.
Incredible artist. All right, next one is called "Fly on the Wall." Can you tell me a room somewhere in history that you would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for?
Oh, let's say. Oh gosh, that's a good question. Maybe. Okay, this is super niche, but um, Billie Holiday performed this song called "Strange Fruits," and they told her if she played that song that she was going to get arrested. And that night she did it anyways and was like mobbed and was arrested. And I just have like so much respect for her for like using her music for, um, kind of a political time,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it would have been really interesting to just like be there during that time and see her perform and be there that night. So I would say that night. That's kind of random, but
I'm just curious if she said "Hold my beer" before she did it. To be honest, I love Billie Holiday, so great answer. All right, next one's called "Biggest Lesson." What do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned directly from music?
um let let it be about the music and not about the party. I would say, like, I think live shows, when you're young, it's like it's about the party and having all the people come out and drinking and having a good time. And then as I've gotten older, the more I've realized that music is its own natural high,
Yeah,
and so I think music taught me that music is enough on its own without it having to always be a party.
I love it.
So
Good
yeah.
stuff. All right. Next one's called Moment of Gravity. I cannot wait to hear your answer for this one. All right. So, Moment of Gravity is kind of like, we can look back in our lives and kind of pinpoint that one time or event in our life that led us to where we are now. It started us on the path to where we are now. Can you kind of see what that was for you?
There's probably several, but the first one, um, gosh. Well, you mean like in my own career or just
Just
in
career,
general?
life, just whatever it is, whatever got you to where you are now as a human or a musician or whatever.
There's, I guess, a couple answers, but one would be I remember when I was 9 years old, my dad was nominated for a Grammy for his song called I Need You. And so we flew out to LA. And I remember getting into that town and being like, this is amazing. Like these, we saw the star, the whole, what is it, the Star Walk of
Hollywood
Fame or
Walk of Fame
whatever.
or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I remember like walking down that and being and in that time, even though I was 9, I remember thinking like some of these people they've passed away, but they like left a big enough mark in the world that they will forever be remembered. And I think I remember during that time of being like, I want to do something that people will remember me when I'm gone, I guess. And so I remember feeling like music was my outlet for that.
That's a great
And
answer,
so
man. Yeah.
yeah, I remember that being a big one.
Cool. All right, next one's called Grateful. These always lead to the next one, right? So it's pretty cool. Grateful is, can you tell us the three things that you are most grateful for?
Three things I'm most grateful for. Um, Definitely my family. Um, my, I mean, I guess the easiest thing would be like my family, my friends, and my spirituality would be my three biggest things. I guess I'm grateful for. Um, but I'm also really grateful for Diet Coke. It keeps me going.
Cancer be damned, right? I love it. All right, last segment, and again, I thank you so much for being here. Last segment is called "Who Do You Think You Are?" Who is Jessee Lee?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I am a very curious human being. I feel like I'm a very I'm always questioning the world and the way that things are, and I think I'm a really deep person. I have a really hard time with like small talk with people. I enjoy like deep conversations.
Right to the point. Yep.
Um, yeah, I think I'm a very artistic person. I enjoy art in all different forms. And I think I'm a pretty happy person. I for the most part am pretty happy throughout my life. And so yeah, I'm a pretty family. I everybody I meet, they kind of become a part of my family, and I see people like family more than I do like strangers or
Yeah.
friends. I try to see a little bit of like human in everybody, I guess. So yeah, I would say that I'm a lover.
A recovering people pleaser, right?
A recovering people pleaser trying to learn to be more heartless as my song is coming out.
Guys, it's Jessee Lee. Let me tell you guys how you can follow along with the journey for her. I want to make sure everything is spelled right because her name is spelled a little different, but it's JESSELEE.com. I got that right?
Yes.
So make sure you're following along. You can see her name on your screen, I think. Let me double check. Yes, you can. So we're also going to put a link to the website down in the description, so you can just go down there and click on that. You're going to find her bio on there, her music, her tour dates, her videos. Her EPK's on there. She's got a lot of photos, and of course, merch. She's got a merch store there, so y'all make sure you go check that out. The social media is Facebook is at Jessee Lee Music. Again, that's SSE in Jessee, and then Instagram is Jessee Lee Official. TikTok is Jessee Lee Official, and I think YouTube is Jessee Lee Official as well. So you guys make sure you're following along everywhere. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast. Thank you for having me on.
I'm
Hey,
gonna have
everybody, this is Christopher Wise, and thank you for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show. I love it.